Mark and Maddie were first home buyers who late last year lost $75,000. Watch this video so you don't make the same mistake. So we begin by sharing you Mark and Maddie's tragic story and how they lost $75,000. From there, we'll go into some of the recent changes only happened a few days ago and how these are going to help avoid this happening to you. So let's delve into Mark and Maddie's story. So meet Mark and Maddie. This is a Brisbane couple who lost $75,000. The pair had been together for 10 years. Having recently got engaged, they decided to buy their first home as we're hoping to start a family. Having found their dream home in Jindalee, they quickly made an offer and secured this beautiful 2-story house for $965,000. They couldn't believe their luck. With there being so much competition, they had finally got their first step into the property ladder. Everything was going to plan. They were excited. They had received the approval without a hitch, but settlement was due on the 20th of October. And it wasn't until they found out that the bank wasn't going to be able to make settlement in time. They frantically called their solicitor to see if there was any way they could extend the settlement. But the seller denied their request, and as such, under the contract, meant that it was void and the deposit of $75,000 gone too. The owner would go on to sell the property for over $1 million, and Mark and Maddie would be left high and dry. There is a silver lining to the story. The bank eventually did front up with $100,000 as a result of them missing the settlement. The biggest problem for Mark and Maddie was the seller had the right to terminate the contract if settlement wasn't met on the 20th of October. Each state has different requirements, so let's begin there, and then we're going to go into the recent changes Queensland have made to their contracts. So starting off with New South Wales, typically you'll have a 2-week leniency period where you can request an extension, but penalty interest will be applicable. If it's a settlement extension by the vendor, that's the owner, then typically penalty interest isn't applicable for the owner. Victoria is much the same as New South Wales, but 10 days. With WA, you've got a 3-day grace period. And in Queensland, if you didn't settle on time, the owner had the authority to terminate the contract. But this has all changed. So let's look at the changes and what they mean to us all when buying property here in Queensland. This is the new Real Estate Institute of Queensland contract, and it was only just released. It's the 17th edition, and I'm going to explain to you what you'll be looking for if you're signing a contract, but more importantly, let's check out the new clause they've added. So here it is. This is a new clause we've all been waiting for, and it's essentially explaining that you have the right to extend settlement. So it says either party may at any time up to 4 p.m. on the settlement date extend the settlement date by giving notice under this clause and nominating a new date for settlement, which must be no later than 5 business days after the scheduled settlement date. So what that means is that if for whatever reason you weren't able to meet settlement, providing you give notice before 4 p.m. on that same day, then you can extend it for up to 5 business days. This means that if there's a public holiday or a weekend, those days don't count, and you've got a full 5 working days where the bank will be able to have the time to arrange and be prepared for settlement. So before you sign the contract to sell, there's a few things you want to do to make sure you've got this clause in the contract. Firstly, you always want to make sure you're signing a standardized contract to sell. How you do this is you look at whether or not the Queensland Law Society is on the contract to sell and whether it's an REIQ contract. Secondly, you'll always be able to look at the bottom here, and if it's got this copyright, the Real Estate Institute of Queensland, you've got the right contract. The next thing you want to do is make sure it's the right edition. So for contracts of residential lots in a community titled scheme, if it's got this title, you'll want to have the 13th edition. If it's the contract for houses and residential land, you'll want to have the 17th edition. If you don't have these editions, and you have a older version, it'll mean that the clause isn't there. The next thing you can do is, if you're still unsure, go to clause 6.2. And as long as it says extension of settlement and you read it and it matches up to what we've talked about today, then you're covered. Overall, this is a great step in the right direction for Queensland contracts and will help alleviate a lot of stress and a lot of issues when it comes to settlement. So now it's over to you. Here at Hunter Galloway, we get home loans approved. So if you live in Australia and are looking for a mortgage broker, we can help. Visit us online at huntergalloway.com.au or call us on 1300 088 065. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.